Okay. Well, good afternoon. I've been given the honor of summarizing this amazing discussion today that happened here. And we also had an amazing session yesterday as well. And giving the job to a philosopher, which is my background, is a little dangerous. You know, we're versed in dialectics and the subjunctive tense, and we don't listen. But I took a lot of notes, but you know, philosophers can't even read their own notes, so yeah. Thanks to Jeb Bittler, anyway, who took some great notes and sent them to me by email. So I do have a number of topics that we can discuss. Generally, there was an overall theme here, and I sort of summarize it as complexity and diversity. It was in every panel and in most discussions, you know, and it was defining the space, really. You know, I've been working in the medical field for about 20 years in financing and partnering and development of medical products. And this area is certainly more complex and more diverse than anything else I've seen. And, you know, it also covers, you know, both over-the-counter products, you know, recreational products, which are also being, you know, used as medical products, and we're developing prescription drugs, which you heard today. So I ended up with 6 categories that I sort of thought that, you know, were in most discussions: the patient, standardization, data, regulation, collaboration, and then I added one of my own, the gorilla, which I'll tell you about when we get there. So taking the first category, the patient is at the center of what we're doing here, and that's completely unusual. You know, developing products. I never sat with a pharmaceutical or a biotech company who had the patient involved in the discussion, and in this industry, the patient is you know, foremost involved in this. And we heard it in a lot of the discussions, you know, but I have to say, you know, those of us developing products, we're not used to having the patient there. So there's a learning process, but it's a very valuable one, because in the end, medicine is moving towards personalized medicine. It's having a hard time doing that. You know, I'll explain a little bit later when we talk about the gorilla as to why. But it seems almost like a given in this business that if we're going to develop products that work, you know, we're going to be doing personalized medicine. But it's not easy to do. I mean, we've been trying to do it for about 15 years. It started with genomics, you know, profiling patients, and also in clinical trials like companion diagnostics. But we're still not there yet. And I think one of the reasons why is the gorilla. Standardization, I mean, that came up in just about every panel, whether we were talking products, production, research, or supply. There's a real need to come up with things that are consistent, that are reliable, that are safe, you know, manufacturing processes that can be repeatable. It really is maybe the most important theme that came out of this meeting in terms of, you know, common theme. Data. You know, this industry and this business is desperate for data, and scientific data. Unusually, you know, we have products where, you know, patients are consuming them already, and we're trying to develop, you know, medical products. We have anecdotal and observational data, but that's not scientific data. And in order for, you know, the healthcare industry to embrace this and prescribe, we need data that's scientific. We need clinical trials. We need clinical studies. We just basically need science to enter this business. You know, at the same time, we have new science. You know, that alone, even if, you know, we were talking green tea, you know, which doesn't have all the regulatory issues associated with it, it's revolutionary. This new science is completely revolutionary. And it's what drives, certainly, the pharmaceutical and the biotech industry. You know, is the new science. But we have new science here that's really interesting in the sense that the body is acting also like a plant, and the fact that, the principal ingredients are of botanical, origin. I mean, there's some major challenges here, but what an opportunity. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen new science like this. All these receptors, all these active ingredients, APIs that are mixtures. I mean, it's incredible. And what's cool about it is that it's also embracing medicine. 70% of drugs are plant-based if you look at the world, but not here. So maybe, this new science will allow us to embrace all these other products as well, and try and find out what their mechanisms of action are and how they work. So it's really revolutionary what's going on with that. Regulation. What was interesting about this meeting, compared to all the ones that I attended, regulation wasn't necessarily a negative. We didn't have panelist after panelist sort of complaining that they couldn't do what they want to do, and yet regulation runs much deeper in this space than in any other medical product space, in the sense that because, the active ingredients are also classified as narcotics. And there's a lot of challenges there, but, at this meeting I heard a lot of positive views on advocacy, on education, and on collaboration to try and overcome some of these problems. And I thought that was really interesting because, regulation is going to change. And it's only going to change because the people in this room are doing what they're doing to make it change, and it will. Collaboration and slash global. Science is a global business from day one. Every scientist working on anything, right? He's going to publish it. Other scientists are going to validate it around the world. So it's international from day one. It doesn't matter if you're in Vanuatu or in Las Vegas. It's a global business. But on account of regulation, collaboration is much more important, I think, in this space. And I heard a lot of calls for collaboration amongst the various stakeholders here. And on a global scale, we have researchers as well from Greece, from Canada, from Spain, different countries. For us to make this work, and to achieve what we want with standardization, with science, with regulation, we're going to have to be more globally oriented than in other medical product development areas. A lot of the issues that, that exist here exist everywhere else. There are only 2 countries in the world where medical cannabis is legal. And finally, the gorilla. The gorilla's not in the room. It hardly came up. The pharmaceutical industry, the nutraceutical industry. And, this is my piece, I guess, Why aren't they in the room? Well, maybe one reason is that we're challenging their business model. 40% of drugs work and create adverse reactions 65% of the time. Those are the statistics, And secondly, we're going after markets where they're there with their products, And even though the products aren't working, it doesn't mean that they're going to be very happy to have somebody show up with different kinds of products. I saw the same thing happen with personalized medicine and genomics. Personalized medicine. Pharmaceutical companies like to give the drug to everybody. They don't want necessarily. What business want? Here's a tool that says, oh, it only works in 30% of the people. So you lost 70% of your market. It's not a business incentive to, to start embracing that right away until you have to. Right? So there's a bit of that going on here. Every time we mention the opioid crisis, we're also criticizing the pharmaceutical industry, and rightfully so. Yeah, but a business model where drugs also encourage you to prescribe, cause problems that encourage you to prescribe other drugs. That can't work for much longer. Meanwhile, they do control the distribution systems, and they control the money, and that I can tell you, in the biotech industry, when you're trying to raise money for something, in the back of the room, you have a pharmaceutical company. You're hedging the bets of basically of the distribution system to take those products. And it's in this sense, I would argue that we need to embrace the pharmaceutical industry and get them involved, and invite the gorilla into the room, even though, what we're doing, may be challenging and threatening. But I think, and I'm on the forefront trying to raise money for companies like this. It's not easy until we get them there. Lastly, I think complexity, diversity. If you look at GB Sciences, their mantra is, put the medicine in the hands of patients and embracing complexity. Those are the two concepts that I come by. So I think, this conference today really achieved certainly confirming what GB Science is all about. And unfortunately, the markets don't agree. A meeting like this, I don't think it would happen anywhere. Embracing the complexity and the diversity that we did here. And, I know the big players in Canada, and most of them don't embrace the complexity and the diversity of GB's business model and what it's trying to do. And yet the market is not recognizing the work they're doing. They're diverting funds away from growing football fields of pot and buying dispensaries, which is what maybe the markets think they should do, and it's what they give value to science. And the markets are not giving value to that, and it should. So if I can encourage you to take something away here, we need to promote GB Sciences. I don't know if there's any journalists in the room, but we got to do what we got to do to get the story out. Because this company right now can't raise money, if it continues to trade at levels that it's trading. And that's the reality of business. So anyone who's really interested, even if you don't like business, you see this as a vehicle advancing your interests, and I think everybody in the room does, then this company has to get its market cap up to a level where it can raise money and carry on its work. And that's going to take everybody to get involved. Anyway, thanks for listening to everybody today, and thanks for John Poss and his team and Andrea for inviting me, and we'll hope to see you next year.